Our tragic story begins when Melanie McGuire, a dedicated nurse and mother of 2 young boys, finds her picture-perfect life in vain. Melanie seemed to have it all: a career helping couples have children, a husband who was a Navy veteran, and a beautiful family. But behind closed doors, her marriage to Bill McGuire was crumbling. Melanie made a fateful decision to begin an affair, setting off a chain of events that would lead to a shocking and heartbreaking crime. In April 2004, Bill McGuire was brutally murdered, shot and dismembered, his remains callously discarded in suitcases in Chesapeake Bay. All signs pointed to Melanie as the killer. Prosecutors painted her as a cold-blooded murderer who chose a new life with her lover over her husband and children. But Melanie maintains her innocence to this day. This is the story of the notorious Suitcase Killer, a murder case that continues to captivate and divide people. Picture perfect life to marital turmoil. Melanie Lynn Slate seemed to live a charmed life growing up in Ridgewood, New Jersey, in the 1970s and 80s. A bright student, she graduated from Rutgers University with a double major in math and psychology. Melanie then followed her passion into nursing, graduating second in her class from nursing school in 1997. 2 years later, Melanie married Bill McGuire, a Navy veteran 6 years her senior. The couple settled into an apartment in Woodbridge Township, New Jersey, and started a family, welcoming 2 sons. From the outside, they appeared to be living the American dream. 2 professionals, Bill a computer programmer and Melanie, a nurse at a prominent fertility clinic, raising their boys together. But the McGuires' marriage was far from perfect. There were tensions and arguments bubbling under the surface. Melanie would later claim Bill had a gambling problem and could be volatile and violent with her at times. Still, in April 2004, the couple took a big step together, closing on a $500,000 dream home in a quiet New Jersey suburb. It seemed like a fresh start for their growing family. Just 48 hours after signing the papers on their new house, Melanie did something no one expected. On April 30th, she filed for a restraining order against Bill, alleging he had slapped her and shoved a dryer sheet in her mouth during a heated argument. Melanie said Bill stormed out after the fight, and she locked herself in the bathroom with their sons. It was the last time she saw her husband alive. Disappearance and gruesome discovery. Bill's sudden disappearance set off alarm bells with his friends and family. The 39-year-old was glued to his phone and BlackBerry for work, so when he suddenly went silent, people knew something was wrong. Melanie told people they had fought and Bill left in a rage, but she acted unconcerned. She never even filed a missing persons report. As the days ticked by with no word from him, his loved ones feared the worst. Those fears were realized on May 5th, when a suitcase containing human legs washed ashore near Virginia Beach, a 4-hour drive from the McGuires' New Jersey home. Over the next week, 2 more matching suitcases were discovered. The second suitcase, found on May 11th, contained Bill's head and torso with 3 bullet wounds, 2 to the chest and 1 to the head. 5 days later, on May 16th, the third and smallest suitcase was recovered, floating in the water near the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel's second island. This one held Bill's severed arms, the collection of evidence. Hoping to identify the victim, police released a facial reconstruction sketch based on the remains. It was this sketch that would break the case wide open. An acquaintance of Bill's recognized him and came forward. Suddenly, the victim had a name: William "Bill" McGuire, and police had a prime suspect, his 31-year-old wife, Melanie. But there was a jurisdictional hitch. The suitcases had been found in Virginia, but authorities quickly determined the murder itself had not taken place there. The Virginia police subsequently handed the entire investigation over to the New Jersey State Police, since the McGuires lived in Woodbridge Township. The body in the suitcases was soon identified as William "Bill" McGuire. He had been shot to death and then methodically dismembered. Melanie immediately fell under suspicion, given the timing of Bill's disappearance and her blasé attitude about him being missing. As investigators dug into the couple's life, a possible motive emerged. Melanie had been having a long-term affair with a married doctor at her fertility clinic named Bradley Miller. Prosecutors theorized Melanie wanted to get rid of Bill so she could be with her lover and start a new life. As New Jersey investigators began digging into the couple's life, more and more incriminating evidence against Melanie surfaced. They discovered that just 2 days before Bill vanished, on April 26, 2004, Melanie had purchased a .38 caliber handgun in Pennsylvania. Bill had been shot to death with that exact type of gun, using distinctive wad-cutter bullets. Even more damning, Melanie's receipt showed an additional $9.95 purchased. The store only sold 2 items for that price: targets and a box of wad-cutter bullets. The evidence against Melanie began to pile up. Why did she buy a .38 caliber handgun just 2 days before Bill vanished? Why were there internet searches on their home computer for things like undetectable poisons and how to commit murder? And what about the mysterious black garbage bags and blood evidence found in the McGuire's apartment that matched the bags and Bill's DNA? Then, a tip came in from an employee at a private towing company. He claimed that he had towed Bill's blue 22 Nissan Maxima from the parking lot of the Flamingo Motel in Atlantic City, nearly 100 miles from the McGuire's apartment. The car was moved on May 8th, over a week after Bill disappeared. Investigators discovered Melanie had done something very odd in the days after Bill disappeared. She drove to Atlantic City, found his parked car, and moved it to a remote motel parking lot. Grainy surveillance footage captured her in the act. Melanie later claimed this was a bizarre prank, but prosecutors saw it as her covering her tracks. She also couldn't explain why she had taken 2 trips to Delaware, not far from where Bill's remains were recovered. Trial and conviction. As the case against Melanie grew, so did the sensational media coverage. The press dubbed her the Suitcase Killer and turned the trial into a national spectacle. Prosecutors argued Melanie was a cold-blooded murderer who shot her husband, cut up his body in the bathroom, drained his blood in the bathtub, and calculatingly got rid of his remains to be with her lover. They painted her as an unfaithful wife and heartless mother who valued her freedom over her family. But Melanie and her defense team fought back against this portrayal. They claimed Bill was a gambler in deep debt to the mob and that his murder was a hit. Melanie took the stand in her own defense, admitting to the affair but insisting she didn't kill her husband. Her lawyers argued the forensic evidence was circumstantial and that prosecutors couldn't definitively prove how, when, or where Bill was killed. After a 23-day trial that captivated the country, the jury reached a verdict in just 13 hours. They found Melanie guilty of first-degree murder, possession of a weapon for an unlawful purpose, desecration of human remains, and perjury. Melanie, then 34 years old, was stoic as the verdict was read. The judge sentenced her to life in prison, plus 5 years. She wouldn't be eligible for parole for more than 60 years. Melanie was sent to the maximum security Edna Mahan Correctional Facility in Clinton, New Jersey. Her sons, just 4 and 2 years old when she was arrested, lost both parents in one shocking act of violence. In the years since her conviction, Melanie has never wavered from maintaining her innocence. From behind bars, she has filed numerous appeals arguing her high-powered defense attorney, Joe Tacopina, provided ineffective counsel. She claims he failed to call key witnesses and pursue evidence that could have exonerated her. But the courts have rejected her appeals and she remains in prison. False claims of innocence. In a rare interview with ABC News in September 2020, Melanie spoke out from behind bars, still maintaining her innocence 16 years after her conviction. "I'm doing this because there's a murderer walking around," she told ABC News' Amy Robach for 2020. "The killer is out there, and it's not me." Melanie expressed the pain and frustration she still feels over being found guilty of such a heinous crime. After all these years, I still feel hurt. I still feel bothered. Like, how could somebody think that I did that?" she said, her voice filled with emotion. The interview touched on another heartbreaking aspect of Melanie's story: the fact that she has not seen her 2 sons since the day she was convicted. When Melanie was sent to prison for life, custody of the boys was given to Bill's sister, Cindy Ligosh. Speaking directly to her now adult children, Melanie shared a message: "Make up your mind. Don't accept what you're just being told on the surface. Dig." It was a plea for them to look deeper into the case, and a mother's desperate hope that her sons might one day question her conviction. The interview was a rare glimpse into Melanie's life behind bars and her unwavering insistence that she did not kill her husband. Despite the mountain of evidence against her and the years that have passed, Melanie remains steadfast in her claims. For her, the fight for justice and the chance to reunite with her children continues, even from the confines of a prison cell. Melanie's case is the subject of multiple true crime TV shows, podcasts, and a Lifetime movie, Suitcase Killer, the Melanie McGuire story, released in June 2022. The film, starring Candace King as Melanie, reignited interest in the nearly 20-year-old case and raised new questions about Melanie's guilt or innocence in the minds of some viewers. The movie depicts Bill as an unfaithful, gambling-addicted husband and Melanie as a wife and mother pushed to the brink. But Bill's family slammed the film as inaccurate and disgusting for slandering Bill's memory. They maintain Melanie is exactly where she belongs for brutally murdering Bill. The film's creative team says they wanted to show both sides and let the audience reach their own conclusions. Melanie's supporters believe an innocent woman has been wrongfully imprisoned, that shoddy police work and a media-hungry prosecutor rushed to judgment without definitive proof. They argue the circumstantial evidence leaves room for reasonable doubt. But for Bill's loved ones and the prosecutors who tried the case, there is no doubt Melanie is a murderer who killed her husband in cold blood and almost got away with it. The Melanie McGuire case remains one of New Jersey's most notorious crimes, a shocking story of love, lust, betrayal, and a brutal murder. It captured the nation's attention like few crimes do. The image of Bill McGuire's body being discarded in suitcases in the sea is seared in the public consciousness. But for the 2 young boys at the center of this tragedy, it is the devastating story of their family being ripped apart. They lost their father to a violent death and their mother to prison. The horror of what happened to Bill McGuire and the knowledge of their mother's conviction is a heavy burden they will carry for life. Nearly 2 decades later, the case still generates fierce debate. Did Melanie McGuire get away with murder, or is she serving a life sentence for a crime she didn't commit? Is she a calculating, cold-blooded killer, or a mother wrongfully ripped from her children? The truth lies somewhere in the suitcases of evidence, the witness testimony, and Melanie's own words. For now, she remains the Suitcase Killer, one of New Jersey's most infamous inmates. Only time will tell if that moniker is just or if the real killer is still out there. This was Agent Magpie, and remember guys, be good. And if you can't be good, be careful.